Now, tonight, our workshop is about what I call blooming inks. So it's a way to take our inks, and tonight I'm going to be talking about two different kinds of inks. This is a watercolor ink. There are a couple of different brands, but tonight I'm going to be featuring the Colorex, and I'll mention some of the others later. And then this brand, which is Liquitex. So this is a watercolor ink, the Colorex from Pebeo, and this is an acrylic ink from Liquitex. So I'll talk about the differences between working with a watercolor ink versus working with an acrylic ink. And let me show you a few of the pieces that I've done ahead of time to be able to show you. And so this is one of them. This is a more moody, right? I put the little dots here to make it look like stars. But that's an example that I did. Now, this is also doing we're just going to be putting down water and flooding the zone with ink. And then you can do all kinds of things with it. I could have made this into an owl. I could have made it into a fox. I don't have to just do sort of moody landscapey kind of things. You can just, the sky's the limit with how you can use this technique. So this is one of the ones where I just did a fluffy fish and it was kind of fun. Oh, thanks for the hearts over on YouTube. I appreciate it. And if you are on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up. That helps. Of course, everybody knows it helps the algorithm, right? So that more people can find the show. Here are some more artworks that I did. And these were using the watercolor ink. So you can see how incredibly bright they are, right? Because that's one feature of the liquid watercolors is they tend to be super bright. So that is some that I did using the doodling on top of the dried watercolors. And then we also have, let me find that. Where is it? We have some fishies in here. Yes. So this is using the Liquitex inks. So these are the acrylic inks here. And same thing, flooding the zone with color, but then going back and doing some detail work to pull out whatever shape or image you want. And that's the fun of this process. So similar to last week where we were doing neurographic art, which is very relaxing. I feel like this technique is also quite relaxing because you're basically just not thinking too much, putting the paint on the paper, letting it all run together and wait for it to dry and watch, right? So yes, it can be fun watching paint dry. You go make yourself a cup of tea or coffee, and then you come back and hope that your artwork is dry, right? Now let's talk about some of the artists that have inspired me for this workshop. So sometimes it's a book that inspires me, sometimes it's an artist in particular that inspires me. So the main artist that inspired me tonight was Tracy Verdugo. So this is her Instagram, Tracy V as in Victor, ERDUGO, right? Yeah, Tracy Verdugo. And years ago, I took a live workshop with her, like a 3-day workshop. Oh my gosh, it was so wonderful. Tracy lives in Australia and she has many online classes and she also tours. So she'll tour the United States, she'll tour Europe, whatever. So if you get a chance to take a workshop from Tracy Verdugo, I highly recommend it. She's amazing. So this is what she's been doing lately is what she calls Zen worlds. And so that's what it is. It's just letting the ink flow and then working back into it and creating little worlds of your own, right? Very relaxing though and fun. So don't put any pressure on yourself. This is just about having fun. And then do you recognize these? So those are some of her fish. Aren't they fun? So little fishies, but I've also seen her do owls and I've seen her do deer and rabbits and the whole works. Now, those are some current images of what she's been putting out on social media. But I'm going to show you the book that I got from Tracy. Did she sign it? I don't know if she signed it or not. Let's see. Let's see. Hmm. Okay, I must have had to order it after going to her class. Some people brought their books with them and had her sign them while we were at her workshop. But this is called Paint Mojo. Paint Mojo. And this is one of her books. I'm not sure how many books she has, but this is the only one that I have. So it's my favorite of hers, right? What I did was I bought the one that's spiral bound. So you can buy soft covers and you can buy this is a hardcover with a spiral inside. So do you see the spiral binding inside? And I really like the spiral binding because you can open a page like this and leave it out on your table and it lays flat very easily with the spiral bound. So even though it's more expensive to get the spiral bound, that's usually what I try to get is the spiral bound if it's available, because I like to be able to open the book onto the table and have it sit there. And so this is her Paint Mojo. Now, some people may not be comfortable with the doodle part of the workshop, which is first we're going to flood the zone with some paint and let the paint do its thing. Then we're going to work back into the paint with some different types of markers and acrylic paint markers as well, and just see what kind of shapes we can create. Now, what I like about Tracy Verdugo's book is she actually gives you in the book here some of the shapes that she likes to use in her meanderings in her artworks. So those were a few. And then there's a second page here, and there are a whole bunch more. So if you're at a loss, if you're like, oh my gosh, I love flooding the zone with color and watching what happens, but maybe you're not comfortable with the mark making part of the process. Well, that's one of the beautiful things about her Paint Mojo book is that she actually gives you a catalog of symbols that you can try that are some of her favorites. And that's an excellent like jumping off point if you're not familiar or comfortable with that. Hey, I see some people, whole bunch of people over on YouTube saying hi. So welcome in over there, and welcome in if you're over here joining me on Whatnot as well. Now, I wanted to show you a few more of the images from her book. So this is Tracy Verdugo's book. So this is the way she likes the soft diffused color. Here, often she'll put a bird in her artwork. So that one features a bird. These are some others. I like this. She calls this chapter the infinite possibilities of failure, right? So as painters, we just have to keep flinging paint at the paper or at the wall and see what happens, right? And so here's a page. This is the page that's opposite the failures page. And what she's trying to tell you here, and what I like is the fact that she gives you a lot of information. It's not just projects and colors a process. She also gives you a lot of insight into her painting process. Plus, this Paint Mojo book features a whole bunch of other artists and their projects and a few of their thoughts on mixed media creating. But this being, the possibilities of failure is that even when you have a piece that fails, you can look at your piece and what is your favorite part of that piece? So, not necessarily looking at your piece as a whole, but looking at little parts of your piece and evaluating those and saying, hey, I really like what this looks like. I like this part of my artwork. And then replicate that, maybe do it larger or do more of that type of uh, bit that you liked out of your painting that was a failure. Okay, so there's rarely a failure, there's usually something in there that you can get excited about. So this is another one. She calls it an inky sojourn. So Here, this is similar to what we're going to be doing tonight, where it's very flowy ink, right? And the last one, the last thing that I wanted to show you was her beautiful smiling face. So here at the back of the book, you can see there is Tracy right there in the back of the book, smiling. She is such a wonderful, wonderful person. I highly recommend that you go follow her on her socials. And if you have an opportunity to take one of her workshops, definitely take one of her workshops. I think they're fantastic. Okay, another artist that's similar in what she does, what Tracy does, is Elena Hennessy. And let me see, it doesn't say where she's from, but there you go. And I will put links to these artists and the book in the description of the video on YouTube later tonight. After the workshop is over, I'll go back in and I will add all those links for you. So you can come back in and you'll find it under the live tab on my YouTube channel. And so this artist, Alina, is that what it is? Alina Hennessy, yes. And so here is an example of her very soft, inky backgrounds. And then she goes on and does simple, so very soft, inky, right? So you're just laying in, you're not really thinking about it. You're just picking the colors that you like at that moment, maybe colors that you know you like that work well together. But part of this is experimenting and seeing what colors work well together and what colors don't work well together, right? Ah, and so, oh, let's see. Nice, nice. I'm just looking over on YouTube because now I have the ability to receive super stickers and there's all kinds of really cool features that I unlocked this week on YouTube. And I'm not quite sure how they all work. So um, I would, sorry if I don't catch something, y'all, over on YouTube. I'm just learning how the super stickers and everything work over there. Um, so again, she laid in some soft colors in the background. And then once that was dry, she came in and put like what looked like little arches or white rainbows here. And then just threw in what made it look like mountains and threw in some something that looks very organic, trees. It can be super simple. You see how super simple this is? And yet to me, it's that makes my heart sing. I just love that type of work. Uh, Now, there's another thing that Alina has been doing recently. And so it's similar to what we're going to be doing with creating our little circles, or I like to call them sort of egg shapes or the fish shapes. And what Alina has been doing is creating what she calls portals. So she's laying down the color like this, almost in a rainbow shape, and then going back over top of that and accentuating this. And she calls this her portals. So she's doing it a little bit differently and creating a portal series. So that's one of them there. But you can see the simple mark making that she's making over top of that once it's dry. Here's another one with some bolder colors. And then there's another color down here just to sort of ground that design. And then here is the last one from Alina. This one's like a lot more. There's a lot more going on here. And one of the things I like to show here is see the darkness in the background right here. So sometimes you can take your light colors here and then throw dark colors either at the top or at the bottom. And that will help to just make your resulting artwork a little more dramatic, right? So I like the fact that you have a very light here and a very dark here. To me, that's quite attractive. And so that's another way of using the techniques that we're going to be talking about today. But again, I will have a link to her and to Tracy Verdugo in the description of the video. Now, before we get too far, I wanted to let you know that on my website, so let me show you where my website URL is. Website right here where it says deetzart.com. Deetzart.com. DIETZART.com. So on my website, I just added literally like a half an hour ago. I just added a quickie article where you can click and download something called reverse coloring pages. So I don't know if you're familiar with this or not, but it's a big thing right now. The phenomenon of reverse coloring books. And so this is one that I just bought during the Amazon Prime days. And it's a reverse coloring book, which means that instead of having a design that's maybe black and then white spaces for you to color in, this book actually has colored designs. And then you go in with a pen of some sort and then do your doodles or designs right on top of it. So see this one right here. And this is a very washy sort of watercolor effect right here. And so what I've done on my website is I created 3 pages of this workshop's called Blooming Inks. So there are 3 inks pages, and I'm going to show them to you real quick like. So there's this first one right here, just ink. This is watercolors that I just did in that. I love to use the egg shape myself. And so there's this one. There's another one here where there are 3 different in a row like that, smaller ones. And then another one like this, which is the fishies, but just the beginning of the fishies, just the ink part. And then I did add the eyes. So then you can go in and do all of your doodles. If you want to practice doing your doodles on, you can print these out as many times as you want. It's in an article, the reverse coloring pages for blooming inks, and that is on my website. So if you download those, then you can practice some doodling on them until you find a design that you like, and then you can move on to your own painted backgrounds and do your doodling then with more confidence on your own painted backgrounds. Hey there, welcome in over on Whatnot. So these, like I said, are on my website, and they're free and you can download them. So that is a reverse coloring, but it's not a whole book. It's just a couple of pages for you to download with tonight's theme. I was like, oh, that's what I want to do. I'm going to give you all some things like that to practice with, because I know not everybody's comfortable with doodling, and I'm often looking at books and things in order to get references for my doodles as well. But I think that's a great way to practice if you've created some backgrounds. So what papers are we going to use tonight? My favorite is the Canson XL watercolor paper. Aw, thank you, Dondry, for sharing over on Whatnot. I do appreciate that. So this is my studio workhorse, the Canson XL watercolor paper. It's 140 pounds, so it's nice and heavy. Now this paper has a texture to it. So there's a light texture here, and that can sometimes affect how the water flows in your little shapes that you're going to be doing. Now, another paper that I like a lot is this that's smooth instead of being textured like the cold press. This is a mixed media paper. Where does it say? Mixed media by Fabriano. Where does it say Fabriano? Right here, Fabriano. And this is an incredible paper pad, perfect for like just test, play until you're ready to go to your thicker papers. It's only 108 pounds, and but it's smooth. It has a smooth surface. So You might recognize that. That is the watercolor that I did for the coloring page, right? For the reverse coloring page. And so I this is watercolor. Now you'll notice that the paper is a little bit buckled, and that's because one, it's a thinner paper and it's a mixed media paper. So you have to be okay with the paper kind of doing this a little bit and then having the inks run accordingly. Like this line across here is because of the way that the paper was rippled, and that affects where the paint goes, which is fine because it's all, to me, it's all organic anyway. It doesn't matter. But if you want a paper that is thicker, smooth, and is glued, it's a block. So those are loose paper pads. That means there's only glue on one side. This is the Stonehenge Aqua Cold Press right here, but it has just very slight texture to it, less texture to the surface. Oh no, I'm sorry. I think this is the hot press. Yeah, hot press. So it is smooth. And so, if you're starting out, I think it's better to work on the smoother papers and then move on to the cold press papers, because the cold press papers that have a little bit of texture to them sometimes can trip you up if you're new. Okay. Because you're like, why isn't the paint looking the way I want it to or going where I want it to? So, you might want to start with a smooth paper to start with. This Stonehenge hot press, so if you see it says hot press, that means that they took that paper that they just made and they roll it through hot rollers, and that gives you a nice smooth surface to paint on. So this is the Legion Aqua hot press, and it's very smooth. So I like excuse me, I like the results that I get off of this smooth paper. And the other thing that I love about this Legion Stonehenge hot, well, there are a couple of things. One is it's 100% cotton. So 100% cotton paper is perfect for what I would call your finished artworks. These other papers, the XL and this Fabriano, the Fabriano mixed media pad here is not 100% cotton. And the Canson XL also is not 100% cotton. Still great papers, and you can do a lot with them, but they're not 100% cotton. So if you want to do, if you want to make the big bucks, or you really want your paint to go exactly where you want it to go, then you want to use a 100% cotton paper. And although as you can imagine, the 100% cotton papers are a little more expensive. Okay. Now, what I like about this Stonehenge is it's a block. So what is a block? A block means that it's glued on more than one side. In this particular case, it's glued here and it's glued here. So it's glued on the two sides. It's not glued on the top and it's not glued on the bottom. So when you put a bunch of, oh, thanks for the hearts over on YouTube. I appreciate it. So when you put water on here, you will get a little bit of bowing, right? Because the paper is going to want to curl up with the water on it. But because it has both, two sides, the long sides with glue on them, it tends to bow less. It just bows only a tiny bit instead of bowing a lot like the other two papers that I showed you a minute ago. Now that there are also blocks that are that have glue all the way around. There's going to be one little spot where there's no glue so that you can put a palette knife or this came with one of my blocks actually. I'll show you that block in a second. You can put this in and it's got sort of a rounded edge to it so it doesn't cut the paper, and then you can pull it off with that. So here are a couple of blocks that I like. This is the fluid paper, so fluid watercolor paper. It's 140 pounds. This is not 100% cotton. Excellent paper, but not 100% cotton. Okay, let me make sure I'm telling you the right thing here, because normally if it's 100% cotton, it's going to say it pretty clearly on the front because they want you to know that it's 100% cotton. Still excellent paper. Okay. And this is a block. So, look at there's those three. We're going to doodle on these later. And this is a block that is glued on this side and glued on this side. So this one has the glue on two sides as well. And it's loose on the top and it's loose on the bottom. So you can see just a tiny, you see that tiny bit of bow right there, just a tiny bit, but it's very reasonable and easy to work with, even if it has that tiny bit of a bow. And that tiny bit of a curve will happen with that fluid that's has glue on two sides, as well as this Legion Stonehenge Aqua that has the glue on two sides. Now, this is a watercolor block called Bao Heng Chinese. A lot of people love this paper. It's 100% cotton. And it's going to tell you right here, pure cotton, right on the front, right? Because if it is pure cotton, they want you to know. So they generally put it on the front. And it is it says used for watercolor, pen drawing, sketches, gouache, and it's scrub resistant. That's the nice thing about a good watercolor paper is you can put color down and then you can scrub it a little bit and lift the color back out. And that's phenomenal. So this one is a 7x5, so 5x7, and it is a full block. So it's glued even on the short edges. It's glued on the long edges. It's glued on the short edges all the way around. And then you see this right here where it says open. What that means is right here, there's no glue. All the rest of this glue, all over here, glue. Just this little spot right here has no glue. And that's where you're going to take the tool. This came with the Bauhung. So you would take the tool and you slip it inside there and go around and loosen. Let me see this green paper that's on the front. I'm going to show you right here. So we've got the green paper on the front, and then you just go around like this and you separate like that. Isn't that cool? So you just gently go around and there you go. This is just a protective cover. I like the color though. Isn't that pretty? I'll have to save that and do something else with it. But there we go. There is the watercolor block. Now the thing with the watercolor block is some people get impatient, and I can be one of those. And if you started an artwork on a watercolor block, you have to finish it on the block and then take it off and get to the next page. Whereas if you have a pad like those other ones, you can lift and work on the next page, or you can just rip that one off easily and then work on the next page. But these blocks like this that are blocks all the way around, I usually will save and working on a piece that I want to finish and then take it off. But the fact that it's a block glued all the way around, you're not going, it's going to keep it flat while you're working with it, even though you put a lot of water on it. So we're going to use this Bao Hung today when we get over top of the table. I love it. Now I keep this in a special place on my on my desk so I know where it is at all times. All right, let's look at, I did show you a moment ago the inks that we're going to be using. So Colorex by Pebeo. This is an illustrator's ink. These inks are dye inks. What does that mean? It means that when you create artwork with these, they are not light fast. So if they're exposed to sunlight, they will change color very quickly. Illustrators inks, any watercolor ink, if it is a uh, dye ink, then it's likely to just be for illustration purposes. Then you scan your illustration because the colors are very vibrant, okay, and out of the bottles like this. So a lot of manga artists use these inks. They love the Colorex inks. And then they'll photograph their artwork and then, right, the artwork goes in a drawer somewhere, so it's not exposed to the sun anymore. But if you want to do finished artwork with these, and this one was done, this piece was done with some of these Colorex watercolor inks. You have to spray this with a UV protectant coating. So that's what I did here. This is the Krylon UV archival finishing spray. And it says right here that it protects acrylics, watercolors, oil pastels. So this is a good one to have on hand in the studio because you can use it over color pencil, oil paints, okay? And it gives you that UV protection. So make sure that if you're going to do something like this, hey, Mark V over on YouTube, welcome in, welcome in. Thanks for shouting out a hello. Um, so this watercolor needed that UV protection. And so I sprayed it with several layers of that archival UV protectant spray before this goes out the door, right? If you're just experimenting, don't worry about it. If you're going to scan your work and then make prints of it, don't worry about it. But if you're going to put this into somebody else's hands, it needs to have that UV protectant to it because otherwise, I mean, I have artworks that have the blue colors of these, and it's like barely purple anymore. It's about 5 years, 6 years old, something like that, and most of the blue is gone, and the pink is very faded. So it's not made for the long term, it's made for the short term, um, for vibrancy in the short term. So any liquid watercolor paints, you need to check them and see. Most of them, if not all of them, are dye based. They might be pigment based. So the opposite of a dye base is a pigment based fluid. And so if it's pigment based, pigments in general are made to be much more light fast. So these inks, like this Liquitex ink here, is it's acrylic ink. So the base is an acrylic, a fluid acrylic, and it is made from pigments, not dyes. So this is made with dyes. Where is it? There it is. This is made with dyes. This is made with pigments. So pigments will last you a lot longer. And actually, this particular color, phthalo green, we call it, is a transparent color, excellent light fastness. So it'll last 50 to 100 years with, in beautiful shape. And so that's sometimes why people, if you're going to make artwork that you're going to sell, prefer to use a pigment based ink rather than a dye based ink. But if you want to do bright poppy artworks that you're going to scan, use some of these. There's actually Royal Talons makes a one they call Echo Line, and who else? There's some other right in some of the Michaels stores. They have their own brand of watercolor, the pigment water or dye watercolor inks as well. So there are other brands out there. Just bear in mind that you're going to need to use that for artworks that you're going to scan. But if you do send them out to somebody, just cover them with the UV protectant. That'll at least get you somewhere with that. Now, another thing that you can do, and what I did with this one right here, this big old egg shape, is I used watercolor paints. So instead of using inks, I got the paint really wet, juicy, so it acted more like a fluid. And in particular, I was using these core paints. So you can see some of the color swatches here. And I'm going to show you a tube here. So this is the color in the tube, QOR. And these have tons of pigment in them, and they're very light fast. They're very punchy in color. So you're going to get the punchy effect that you would of the Colorex, but it's a proper um, pigment ink or pigment paint. And you can just add a lot of water to it to make it have the effect of an ink, and that's what I did when I created this one. However, you'll notice that the colors of this one are softer. So this came from the core watercolors. Notice how the colors are very soft and diffused compared to these, where the colors are super punchy, and those came from the Colorex bottles. Okay, the dye inks, right? So I would scan these and then sell prints because I don't know whether the color is going to last over time, right? But I wanted you to be aware of what the properties of these different paints are, things for you to keep in mind when you're out there shopping. You need to decide what the final use is going to be of the paints that you are buying, right? And the artwork that you are creating. All right. Um, I'm looking around here. So we talked about the paper. We're talking about the paints. In terms of paint brushes, just use anything that you have. We are going to put a lot of paint on the paper to begin with. So it can be helpful to have a brush with a little bit larger top to it. So this is a flat, meaning it's flat across the top, big fluffy one, or where's another one that I like? Oh, if you happen to have, everybody's like, what the heck do you do with a fan brush? I mean, there are nice ways to use a fan brush, but this is a good one also if you want to get a lot of spread out a lot of water and you happen to have one in your stash, you can use that one. If you have a dagger, that's something that's rounded like this, you can use one of those. This one is a big old fluffy, this is actually called a wash brush. It says right on it, oval wash. And so you can, it'll hold a lot of water and you can get a lot of water on your surface with something like this as well. I'm just looking to see if I have any other types. Well, this is called a mop brush. So this is a wash brush. It has a little bit of an interesting shape to it. This one is called a mop brush. So if you really want to flood the zone, you can see, doesn't it look like a makeup brush? It's very fluffy like a makeup brush. And so this one will hold even more water. So it just depends on how big the area is that you're covering, which type of brush that you want. So for me, this one is a little bit too big for what we're doing right now tonight. Um, if I were working on a larger sheet of paper, I would want to use something like that. Or if I'm working on a big piece of paper, there's something like this, which is called a mottler or a spalter. They call it both mottler, spalter. Nice and big, and that sucker will hold lots of water, and then you can get big areas with it. But we're going to be working with a little bit smaller areas tonight, so we're going to use some of the smaller brushes. Um, Now, when we get to the point where we start to do the details, we're going to be using different types of markers and paints. So the markers that I like to use the most are some of these acrylic markers. So a lot of different companies make acrylic paint markers. I like those. Even on top of the watercolor, I like to use the acrylic markers. And then here we have these coming in 10 different colors. Love these. This is the Signo Uniball, and it's a what they call it a broad tip. It's millimeter, so it's not that broad, but it's beautiful. It's gorgeous. I love and it's a gel pen, so I love these. They're fantastic. Um, when the video is over, oh hey, stay home to shop over on Whatnot. Good to see you too. When the video is over, I'll be putting links to these different supplies like the pens in the description of the video on YouTube. Let's see, Posca pens. These are also, people may not realize it, but these are also acrylic pens. It's just their formula is kind of unique. I don't know what it is. It's a lot different from this. This is the Pebeo acrylic marker. And this is the Posca acrylic marker. They just, it's weird. They're both acrylic markers, but they just work differently. So you have to try them, but I'm here to try them for you. So if you have any questions about any of these products, just feel free to, you know, leave me a question or message me later in the comments, and I will be happy to answer that for you if I can. um, Now, there is this product right here from PH Martin's called Bleed Proof White. Oh my gosh, any illustrator will tell you you have to have this on your desk. And that is especially when you're working with watercolors. Watercolors can resuspend, the color can come back up when you put something else that's water based on top. And oftentimes, when you're using white, like when I use this Posca white marker, even the Pebeo white markers, because they're water based, when I put them over top of the watercolor, it resuspends the color. And then if it was pink under, then it becomes pink. If it was blue under, it's like, it drives you crazy. But this is, as it says, bleed proof white. And that's so that you can put white over top of your watercolors or your water soluble paints and it won't bleed. No bleeding. Oh my gosh. So bleed proof white. And that's what I did here. You see up in this area right here. This, when I did these stitches, the first time I did it, I did them with these. And then I was like, oh my gosh, it's resuspending everything. So then I took one of the Pebeo ones and I put it on top and it was still resuspending. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to break out the good stuff. And I got out the bleed proof white, and then that's how I could get the white to stay on top here and stay on top here. But that's one of those tricks that you have to have the bleed proof white if you're going to do this kind of illustration and you want to put white on top of other colors, unless you're working with acrylics. I'm talking about paints that will resuspend and if they get wet again. And so that's the nature of wash paints and watercolors. But if you're working on top of acrylic paint, so this is an acrylic ink, then the acrylic inks will not resuspend after they're dry. And so they're a lot easier to work on top of the acrylic inks with acrylic markers. Um, Okay, anything else? Anything else? Something else that I use a lot with my illustrations is the Sakura Pigma permanent ink pens. So it would be considered a fine liner, and they come in a whole bunch of different nib sizes. Like here is the zero. This one is the 0.5, and the one you can see there. Um, so I love the breadth of the different sizes that they have, and also the colors. They come in different colors as well. So my favorite is the black, but I do have a little bin here next to me, and it has like there's a purple one. You can tell by the end of it here, tells you what the color is. So there's a purple one, there's a green one, here's a pink one, there are browns, right, like that. So you can buy them in sets with colors as well. I tend to use the black ones most of the time. Okay, anything else? I'm looking around here. Now, instead of using an ink, either a watercolor ink or an acrylic ink, you can use an Asian ink if you want to work in black, white, and gray. Okay, because you can use the white of the paper and then you can use the black of the Asian ink. You can add a bunch of water to this and then it becomes gray. And so then you can get your variations of blacks, grays, and white using something as simple as just some of the Sumi ink from the Asian inks. And I think it's fun. I love the black, gray, and white. I love that combination as well. So you can get as simple or as complicated as you want, right? But I do like just black and white and gray. I think it looks kind of minimalist and it looks fabulous. Okay, that is it for the supplies. So we are going to go ahead over top of the table and I'll put some of these out of the way. All right, cool, cool. I have a flower from my garden that I thought I would put on the table here to keep me company while we do our workshop tonight. That flower is called a heliconia. It's a tropical flower, and they're just beginning to come back in my garden area after the hurricanes from last September. So we got a big flood here in my neighborhood, and so the flower beds were flooded out, and all the beautiful heliconia flowers, these that I had there, they all turned brown. They kind of burnt, but fortunately, what's great about those is they're tropicals. So the roots stay good in the soil, and all you have to do is pull out the brown part and you leave the roots in. And now I've got about a third of the flower bed filled again, and they're starting to flower again. So, so cool. Love it. All right, let's start out with this paper, which I really enjoy this mixed media paper because it's it's a big pack of 150 sheets. So it makes it that you can feel good about doing just loads and loads and loads of practice with it. I think it's just fantastic. And if you need to see it again, let me do this because I know different people join at various times. So there you go. That is the paper. It's the mixed media paper by Fabriano. It's 108 pounds. This happens to be a 9 by 12, but you can get it bigger too, like the 11 by 14, and just fantastic for working in the studio and doing practice, practice, practice. Okay. And let's see, we are going to start with the ColorX paints. So let me get some of those out. I have a whole box here. And what I like, the bottles used to look like this on top, where they did not have any, indication of what the bottle had inside it. Like there's the label showing what's in it. And then they updated them, and look at this. Isn't this cool? So there's the name and the number, and a little swatch of the paint right there. So that helps tremendously to be able to identify what's in there. I love that. What I did in the past was I took the jars that didn't have anything on the lids, and you can see here I just spilled some of the paint in the lids so I could see what the heck is that color. So this is a bright orange, that's vermilion. Let's do my favorite turquoise blue. I go through a lot of turquoise blue, although this one's really cool too, this China blue. The China blue, if you add a lot of water to it, it gives you kind of a green blue, almost like the ocean. And let's see, there are some fluorescent colors in here. I'm not going to go. Am I going to go for the fluorescence? No, I want to use the regular magenta. So this is the regular magenta. We need some yellow. So if you look at these two yellows, one says light yellow and one says primary yellow. So you can see sort of on the lid that one is going to be a little brighter, like a little more lemon-like, and the other one is a little warmer or a little darker. I'm going to go with the lighter yellow. I love the violet, right? The purples. If there's any particular color that you want me to use, just shout it out and I will be happy to do that for you so you can see what they look like. The spring green is the lighter green, and that is quite beautiful. There's a fluorescent green, a fluorescent yellow, and a fluorescent pink also available. That's those. Now, one thing about the fluorescent colors, they look phenomenal when you're using them, but they fade very quickly. So if you use it and then you scan it, you're great. But if you use it and you expect the color to stay vibrant for any length of time, yeah, you're going to be out of luck. But they're still gorgeous. Okay, so I'll pull out that. This is probably my favorite, this fluorescent pink. So I'll pull that one out and show you that one. Um, I love this. This is the ColorX white. So you can add the ColorX white, and you can look for a white for any of these inks, and then the white is not going to be transparent. It's going to be a titanium white. It's going to be very milky, but you can convert any of these colors into a pastel by adding the white to it. You can also use this white. I use it on a dip pen, so I will grab a dip pen and I'll put the dip pen in there and then make my marks using this ColorX white. Sometimes that works. Other times it doesn't work. So you just have to play with it. What else do we have in here that's exciting? I think that's probably this wine red is kind of fun for a deep color also. Let's try that. Do I have enough deep colors here? I like the contrast of light and deep. So the violet, is a deep, and then we've got ultramarine blue is also very deep. So that's always a good one to have on hand. Okay. Now this is a pearlescent medium. I don't know if you can see on there. It says pearl medium. So that's kind of fun because if you want to add a pearlescent shine to your any of the colors, you can add a touch of the pearl medium. And then there's also gold here, and silver. What you have to be careful of with the gold and the silver is that they're super thick. There's actually a little bit, I think a little bit of oil in these. You see where it says danger on the jar? That's because there's a solvent in there that they use to help keep the metal in suspension. So it's not exactly the same sort of formula as the regular colors, and it's much thicker. So you have to stir it with a stick before you use it. But it's beautiful, gorgeous. Actually, let's take it out. We may use it later. Okay, let's put the lid back on that. Move it out of the way. These are some of the empty markers that I showed you last week. Eek. You're getting to see some of my stash there. All right. Whew. So, like I said, this was watercolor. This was the core watercolor. So you can see how sort of pale that is, right? So we're going to pull that off. Beep. And we are going to use some of these inks. Now to create these little Zen worlds or these little, what I call blooming inks. Hold on a second. I need a drink. Mm. Again, Mark V, I have my Bengal spice tea here to keep me company. Okay, so we're in order to create these little fuzzy, inky backgrounds, we need to start with water. So I am going to use this beautiful oval wash. It's a Princeton Neptune, gorgeous, gorgeous brush. And the nice thing about the Neptune brushes is they're made for watercolors. So I don't use my Neptune brushes for acrylics. I keep them strictly for watercolor. And they're very thirsty brushes, so they hold a lot of water in there. And what I'm going to do, I like to create the shape of an egg. That's me. That's what I like to do. So I'm going to do an egg here, an egg shape. And I'm depositing a lot of water onto the surface. And then I'm going to take some ink. Let's take some of this, this crazy fluorescent ink, which is so beautiful. And I like ink that has droppers because you can squeeze the dropper a little bit as you put the color out. And then the color just runs. So let me bring it up closer so you can see. You see how exciting that is? It's so much fun. So fun. I love the way it just chases the water. Fantastic. Let's do a little bit of this wine red for some contrast because we've got so much brightness there. And this is going to be like a dark, dark color instead. So I'm just squeezing it a little bit as I'm moving it around. Okay. And then I think what would be good to go with that would be this China blue. And I've got a bunch of color up in there. Just squeezing it out into the water. Now the paper is beginning to bow. So there's a whole bunch of water down here. So what I can do is lift the paper up and let it run. I'm not lifting it up at too high of an angle because, oh, look, can you please, can you hold the bottle brand and name up to the camera? Ah, yes, of course, Beehive, I will. Give me just a moment. So I'm holding it up, not at too steep an angle, because if I hold it too steep an angle, it'll drip off. Now you might want that. Let's say I want it to drip off the bottom here. I can lift it up high enough that I can break the tension. Let's say that I want to break the tension. I, I'm just using, I mean, these are, toothpicks are great in the studio, just saying. So I can break the tension there, and then that can help to cause the drip to go down. Isn't that fun? So then I end up with a drip. Why not? Drips are fun. Part of it is just going along with, right? Going along with the mood. And there we're gonna let it gently. move back up into there. And then what other color? I want to put some, I mean, I just love this turquoise. This turquoise is just so nice. So nice. Don't feel like you have to cover the whole area. It's okay if you leave some white space. And this pink is already dry, so I'm actually just sort of bringing this along. And because it is somewhat dry, I can just use the end of this to create some interesting shapes in there. And I bring it up close to you. And then I will, hey, Barbara. And then for Beehive, I will show you the bottle in just a moment. So there you go. You see how it's moving around there? But that pink was already getting dry. So I was able to do some interesting marks with that. Oh, that is fun. I'm seeing palm trees already in that one, right? And that, but of course, I do live in Florida, so I would see palm trees, right? Okay, so Beehive, you wanted me to hold these up. I do want to let you know that on my website, right here. Oh, you just bought some inks, Barbara said. So on my website right here on Whatnot, I sell my artworks and a few art supplies that I have on hand. But on my website, you can get links to things like the full range of these inks. And there you go. So, hey, oh, you got it. Okay. If you go on my website and there's one of the menu items says supply links, you can find the inks in there and the markers that go with the inks as well. So this is Pebeo Colorex. But remember that the Colorex inks are very bright. They're illustrators inks. Oh, great. Thanks, Beehive. Said she screenshotted the website. Um, so Michael is saying it's a stem now for a flower. Right. Okay. So thank you, Michael, over on YouTube said it's a stem for a flower. Yes, absolutely. It's there's so many possibilities. That's the beautiful thing. We all get to bring our own imagination to something like this, which I think is fabulous. Okay, so remember, Beehive, that the Colorex inks are Illustrator inks. They are dye based and they will fade. So these are perfect for making brilliant artworks that you then can scan because they're made for manga and cartooning and stuff like that. So you would make your artwork, scan it, and then sell the prints. Okay, because they are going to fade. But man, the colors are so punchy and bright when you start out. They're awesome. I love them. Okay, so now we're going to, Barbara on Whatnot said, I bought a cheapo set of 6 inks for $15. Look like water. Yeah, looking like water is A-okay, Barbara, because you want the ink to be very flowy for this type of project. Okay, Beehive asks, is there a way to seal the drawing inks? Um, there is. However, the nature of the dyes is that the dyes will oxidize and go bad over time. So if you want to make it last a little bit longer, like for instance, this one is made with these inks, the Colorex inks, and then what I did was I sprayed this with a UV resistant spray. So here it is. It's by Krylon. I love the Krylon products. It's a this is their gallery series. So can you see there where it says gallery series? It's a UV archival varnish. And what that does is that helps to protect your works from the effects of light and sun. And what's nice about this particular series is it protects acrylics, watercolors. It's very hard to find a spray varnish that will work on watercolors, oil pastel, colored pencil, and oil paints. So fabulous, fabulous. Don't use this on dry pastels. Okay, does not work on dry pastels. You have to use a special um, uh, spray for dry pastels, okay? Which the one I recommend if you're using dry pastels, I recommend the Sennelier is the brand. But this Krylon is good for, in general, for the watercolors, acrylics, and oils and oil pastels. But that's what I sprayed this with. Now, the one that I have is a gloss. So I'm going to show you the finish. Do you see the glossy? There's a little bit of glossiness on there. Yee! I don't know if you can see it, right? And so it's not overly glossy, but it gives it a sheen, a little bit of a sheen. Oh, you're welcome. Beehive said, thank you for sharing your knowledge. It's my pleasure. You know what? I decided to do Sunday workshops because I need to discipline myself to sit down and paint. And so I thought, and I saw Barbara Florentine on Whatnot. I saw her. She just turns on her camera and sits there and paints and chit chats and just builds such a beautiful artist and art fan community on Whatnot. I said, I can do that. Yes. And so I love that concept and I stole it from Barbara. There you go. She's the one. All right, I want to show you this. I just flooded another egg shape over here. And can you see how ripply the paper is? Look at how ripply the paper is. Oh my gosh. So that's why the paint is sort of doing weird things. But you know what? That's okay. We're gonna do some on this bow hung, which is the full block as well. So you can see the difference. You're welcome, Barbara. Yeah. Barbara, if you don't follow Barbara and you're on Whatnot, you need to go follow her right now. She's an amazing artist as well. And I love her just times when she just turns on the camera, paints and chats. It's so fun. She's fabulous. Okay, look at how gorgeous that spring green is. Can you see the color? It may be a little hard to see it in the camera. Oh my gosh, it is just so vibrant. That's what I love about working with these dye inks. All right, let's stick in the same sort of color family. So we're going to do greens and blues and yellow. Look at the yellow. Oh, the yellow is so bright. So this one's going to be a little bit lighter. Lighter colors. This was darker colors, right? And then we'll get some of the turquoise blue in here. I never knew, Barbara said. Yes, Barbara, you're the inspiration. You're an inspiration to many. Okay, here we go. So I'm just gently squeezing from the end of um, the thing that's in there, the little dropper. Ah, I'm getting paint on here. Oh well, I'm not worrying about it. Not worrying. So that's kind of fun, right? You see what's happening there. Now I'm going to blow on it a little bit. What I like to do is use a straw. So somewhere in here, I have a straw. And if I can't find my straw, I'm going to use one of these. This is a dropper, but you can use it to blow some. I'm looking. I, of course, I have like a million little jars over here next to me with goodies in them. And they're supposed to have, and I know there are, but it's just not right here. Okay. Ugh. All right. So I'm going to use this. It's not blowing it too much. Okay. I'm just going to have to blow it with my mouth because it's not blowing it enough. Come on now. Where are my, I know I have, see, I put my straws here. Come on, straws. Okay. They're not showing up. That gave me an interesting little boop off the side, right? I like that. I don't want to blow it too much because I want to keep the green, yellow, and blue. If I blow it too much, then it'll end up with all the colors running together, which is why I usually like to use a little straw. There we go. Let's see how that did. That's kind of fun. I like it. I like where it went. Let's do another one down here. Yee. We'll just go right over top of where that little bit of ink got. And that's okay. So just flood the zone with water. Isn't this fun? This is so much fun, y'all. So much fun. Okay, instant grass landscape. Yes, Mark V said. Oh, Okay, you guys are gonna just freak out with the way that the paint spreads so much. Look, 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 look. You see that? It's just so fun. Okay, this one's giving me Easter egg vibes. Let's put some magenta. Is this the magenta? Yes. Um, okay, okay. So Michael Wilbur on YouTube said, dry on wet. Oh, that was over here. That's right. Let's bring some pink in here. Now, what else is in sort of, what I like to do is I like to think about the color wheel. So I know a lot of you probably are like, what? Thanks, Mark V. I see little like stars out there. Um, Yes. I told the story before, but if you weren't here before, my daughter was in advanced art in school. No surprise there. I used to send her into school with some of the finest paints, and her teacher would salivate. You know, I sent a care package in once. I'm like, here, give this to your teacher, because sometimes brands like Golden Paints will give me samples. So and Pebeo gives me a bunch of samples. So I put some samples together and I was like, here, give this to your teacher. And she got an A, but it wasn't because of that. It was because she was an amazing artist. But um, she wouldn't say, she told her teacher, I said, I bet I'm the only kid with a mom that has a color wheel in her purse, because you can get these color wheels this pocket size. It's a 5 incher, and that's what I carry around in my purse with me. So just a funny little story there. So I like to look at, especially with something that we're doing here, if you use opposite colors on the color wheel. Oh, yes. Barbara said, I have a heart of gold to share a care package with the teacher. Well, and art, school art teachers don't always have the biggest budget. They have to buy budget paints, um, even when they have like amazing students. So my daughter's artwork always turned out to look amazing because she was using like I bought her the huge set of Prismacolor pencils for Christmas one year, so she was using high quality professional uh, paints and supplies. And so her artwork always looked great. Um, but of course it's the artist too. The artist has to be able to create, and she was amazing. um she is amazing. She's all grown up, married, and lives out in California now, and I'm in Florida, so we're a long way from one another, but fond memories. So what I like to do here is, if I use a blue and an orange next to each other, I'm going to get a brown. So here's blue, here's orange. This is called a color calculator. These little areas right here are actually little holes. And so if you take blue and the opposite on the color wheel is orange, and you lay it over top of the orange, what you're going to see is you're going to get some sort of brown, right? Brown or an olive green or something like that. So I like to try to stay with something like this, um, with colors that are next to each other on the color wheel, kind of like a pie shape here. So for instance, we have purple and pink, or violet and pink. So we're kind of in this area right here. And I don't want to go too much to the orange. Um, let's see. I'm thinking I want to go more over this way a little bit. So keeping it close, and go into the blues. All right. So that way I can see, I could go into the oranges as well. I just have to be a little careful with the purple and the orange. So let's do a blue, and the water is beginning to wane. So let me just add a little bit more water in there. There we go. So I've got some more water in there. Let's use some of the China blue, which is so pretty. So yeah, I actually, after, painting for 20 some, way over 20 years, not quite 30 years yet, I still go back to my color wheel. It's okay to go back to your color wheel. Faux help. Okay, let's see. That's not very exciting, but you know what? Sometimes leaving it with very quiet, and a quiet, soft background can be great for when you're putting your doodles back on top of it. So don't underestimate that. That is a-okay. I like it. I like it. I don't have to do anything too fancy. Let's do one more here with the inks. If there are any special colors you want me to use that you can see here, or you don't even see there, I can pull it out. Oh, you know what? I think I'm going to use the this. Oh, that's an orange. I love the sanguine. That is one of my favorite colors of this collection is sanguine. So it looks like I did not pull it out. Why didn't I pull out my favorite color? I don't know. They have sienna, and where? Oh, there's the sanguine. The sanguine is a red earth color. Oh, it's one of my favorites. So let's just sort of pull this in here, and then I'll bring it up close so you can see what it looks like. You see that? It's a brown, but it's got a lot of character to it. It's a red brown. Yeah, I just love the sanguine color. Sanguine right there. Hopefully you can read that okay. And what can I put with that? What would look nice with that? The yellow would look nice with that. Woo. Let's just throw some yellow in there. Another thing is, besides the dripping, you can go off the pit, you know. You don't have to stay in the egg. You can go off the edges here, right? Like now that looks like a bird to me. Okay, now it's going to be a bird maybe. It's so fun. Okay, let's take this vermilion, which is a form of orange, and sort of, now this is the old bottle. So you can see that the dropper is rounded on the end. And the new bottles I showed you last week have the new bottles have the pointy end. I'll show you here. So you see the pointy end on the dropper right there. And the reason that you want the droppers with the pointy end is if you're going to get the markers, which go along with these paints. This is the magenta and this is the magenta. So I can refill this marker from this bottle, but only if I have the pointy end glass there. Okay. So I do sometimes use these. So let's say that I want to put some dots around here. It's the exact same paint inside the markers, which is cool. It's nice because then you know what's in there. I'm going to show you real quick. I'm just going to move this out of the way a little bit. I'm going to show you real quick how you fill the markers. There's a little the back of the end of the marker has this black insert in it. And so you just take your color, and it can be a matching color, or you can mix different colors. You can make custom colors. You can also get empty ones. So this one with a 0 on it was an empty one. And you can fill them with whatever color or combination of colors you like. So I've got a bunch of ink in here, and you have to have the pointy end so that you have to shove it in there until you feel it go click. There we go. So it's fully seated inside the back end there now. And then gently, you're going to gently press, because you don't want it to backwash, right? You don't want it to splash. So I'm just gently pressing. It takes about three and a half of the dropper fulls in order to fill a marker. There you go. Isn't that cool? So now I just filled more paint in there. Now there's going to be a little bit of paint left in the bottom there. So I always just take a little bit of water. I use the back end like this, and I just put it in the water. And that cleans the back end of that out. So this is slightly pink now. All right, we clean that off, and that's how you refill the markers. So I don't know, are there other watercolor markers out there that you can refill? Most of them you have to throw away. So these are nice because they are refillable. Plus you can customize them. So they're fabulous. you have to make sure you have the bottle that has the plastic dropper with the narrow tip to it in order to be able to do that. Okay. All right. So these are looking very nice. See how bright and punchy? The colors are super bright and punchy because we're using the watercolor inks. There's another brand called Dr. P.H. Martin's, the same company that makes this bleed proof white. Dr. P.H. Martin's also makes uh, watercolor inks like this, and they're just as bright and punchy, and they're for illustration purposes. Illustrators, inks. Okay, we're going to set this aside and let it dry while we go to the, we're going to go to this one, the bow hung, which is the block. So it's got the glue on all the sides. So theoretically, this should not bow when we go to put our acrylic inks on there. So I'm going to move these out of the way, which are the, oops, let me put these, maybe I will be neat and I will put them back inside their jar, huh? What do you think? Just to be sure they stay organized. Like I said, if you have a special request for me to put a certain combination of colors together, just let me know. I'll be happy to do that since I have all the paints in front of me right here. I'm going to leave out the white and the gold because we'll use those in a little bit. Sanguine. Oh, I love to use the sanguine with a dip pen. It looks so good. It's beautiful. Beauteous. Okay. So we're going to set those aside to dry. Now we're going to work with the Liquitex inks, but these are acrylic inks. And it even says right on it, professional acrylic. But there are other companies. Let's see what other F&W is Daler Rowney. They make an acrylic ink. Who else? Uh, I think Sennelier makes a professional acrylic ink as well. Okay, let's see. They're underneath me here. So let me grab these. Isn't that amazing? I haven't needed a paper towel yet tonight. I just saw my paper towels. I'm like, maybe that'd be a good idea to get out a paper towel. Okay. This is a heavy, heavy box because of all the glass. Because the Pebeo ones are in plastic. These are in glass. Okay, here we go. Eek. So let's see. Oh, yeah, that's right. This is the Michael's acrylic ink also. What do they call it? Artist Loft, right? Same thing. It says acrylic ink right on it there. And what colors do we want? Phthalo blue, beautiful. Here is the yellow. There's also a white. This is a really good one for using on top. Lime green. Let's see here. Nice and bright. Does it say on here what the cool? So because these are professional acrylics, thank you for encouraging somebody to follow. I appreciate that over on Whatnot. And if you're on YouTube, if you don't mind, please give the video a thumbs up. It's very helpful. I appreciate it. Um, so the interesting thing about using something like a professional acrylic is right here on the bottle. It's hard for you to read, I know, but I'm going to read it to you. There are, it tells you whether it's opaque, transparent, semi-transparent. It gives you the light fastness. Like for instance, it says this vivid lime green is excellent. It's opaque. And it also tells you what pigments are in it. So remember, these are pigment based, not dye based. So these are going to be more permanent. Um, and this is a 3 stars, and the pigments are PY 138 and PG 7. So there is a pigment database, and the pigment database tells you about the pigments that are inside there. Oh, this is transparent burnt sienna. That's kind of a nice brownie color there. And there are some metallics too. Can you see the copper right there? Eek, that copper is beautiful. Maybe we'll use a little bit of copper. Okay. And there's the magenta right there. And there's Naphthol red. So the colors that you're going to have of acrylic inks are going to be the same sort of colors. Um, a lot of the names are the same as your tube paints. So if there are colors that you like working with in tube acrylics, you can find often the same sort of colors here. Um, but you can always look at the pigments too and see what the pigments are to see if they match. All right, what are we doing here? Prussian blue, nice and dark. Nice and dark. These are the Pebeo artist acrylics, fluid acrylics as well. So Pebeo has some fluid acrylics in addition. All right, let me get the lid back on this, move it out of the way, and we'll do something with these. So it's been, over the years and years and years that I gather up these different supplies. And the nice thing is they last. Good quality products are going to last. They're not going to dry out and get rubbery on you, which a lot of acrylics happens to a lot of acrylics. Okay. Now I could turn this upside down like this, but I prefer to work with it with the lid out like that so I can get it more flat, right? And this, if you don't recall, is hey, Mark V just joined over on Whatnot. Thanks for watching on YouTube and Whatnot. So there's the bow hung paper and the 100% cotton block. Oh, I'm so excited to work on a block. Oh, let's do it this way. So I'm going to do my egg, right? Ah, no, I want to do more than one egg. I'm going to do 2 eggs. I'll do it this way. So I'm putting my water on there, get lots of water. This one. For some reason, I tend to like to skew my eggs over to the left. I mean, to the right. Does that mean anything? I don't know. Let's see, just flood the zone here with water. There's that one. Let's thicken this one up a little bit. Now I'm looking at it on the side to the side because I want to see where the water is. And I can see the nice thing is if you're using a professional paper like this, the 100% cotton, and it's well sized, meaning that the paint and the water will sit on top, which is awesome. Let's use some of this magenta. It says quinacridone magenta, which I know any quinacridone is a transparent color. Ooh. Oh, yes. Fabulous. I'm getting that same like incredible spreading. You see there? Oh, so cool. So cool. Okay, let's use some of this yellow, orange azo up here. Just run it across the middle of it. Ooh, gives us a nice fiery red when I do that. Can you see where they're kind of mixing right there? Whatnot allows me to minimize the screen. Oh, and multitask. Yes, it does. Yes, Whatnot does. That's nice. I always multitask when I'm watching the shows on Whatnot as well. Okay, I'm loving those colors. Love them. Okay, what else let's use some copper maybe. Let's try the copper, see what happens. And I'm gonna open this one up. Let's see what happens when I drop some of the copper in there. It's chunky, because the size of the size of the particles of the metallics are like big. So this is where our brushes come in. I'm going to take this fan brush and I'm just going to gently pull the color around. There we go. I'm going to need to add something else there in order for the copper to sort of float in, Nice. I like where it's going. Hey, Connie63, welcome in, welcome in. Over on Whatnot. On YouTube, I can't see when people come in, but Mark V said, I like that one. Good. I'm glad. Connie, we're making some um, little, I call them blooming inks worlds here. Would that? No, that would not look good with that. Let's see. What else? I do want a color though that is transparent. Maybe I'll go with the transparent burnt sienna. So Connie, these are professional quality inks. So we're working with inks today. And then we're going to get to working with markers and things on top of the inks in order to create these super cute worlds like this. So if you weren't here earlier, Connie, see, this is something where we put a couple of colors down and then we went back in and we had some fun. And these are little fishies that we did using the same idea, same technique, but we changed it into a fish. And we could have changed it into a rabbit. We could change it into a an owl. They look really cool as owls. All right, so that one's more earthy. Let's see on the other side over here. Maybe we want to do something a little more crazy, like pinks and purples. Ooh. Okay, here we go. This is the one from Artist Loft. The pink. This pink is a little more opaque, but it's beautiful, beautiful. And it's running like crazy. Do you see it running? Is it like alcohol ink? Ah, good question, Connie. These are actually water-based pigment inks is what I'm working with right now. Earlier, I was working with dye-based watercolor inks. So what I'm working with today is water-based. But if I had, and I do have in storage, the alcohol inks, and when I work with the alcohol inks, I'm going to show you real quick since you asked. I work on Yupo paper with alcohol inks. Have you ever heard of that before, Connie? Have you done that? So this is Yupo paper. Oops, let's get to the cover. Yes. Okay. So this is the heavy Yupo paper. I love the heavy paper because it's just thick, that little bit thicker, right? So it lays flat better. And so you can do this exact same type of technique, but instead of using water in the background, you would use alcohol in the background. And I just use rubbing alcohol. I don't do anything fancy. I use rubbing alcohol, but I use it on this special Yupo paper and the alcohol ink spread in the same way. So you probably saw it and you were like, well, that's spreading like alcohol inks do. And it's true. It's true. But today we're just working with the water based. Okay. Which is a fun project to do with kids. It is a fun project to do with kids because it's just water based, right? Just bear in mind, these are very strong pigments, just like alcohol inks are strong pigments. And so you do need to supervise kids if you're doing this with children because otherwise you're going to have stains everywhere. Oh my gosh. Okay, what can we put with that pink? I want to go with some blues. Ooh, this Prussian blue is super dark. So let's see. Let's see what it does here. Oh, yeah, it's dark. I like the dark in these little vignettes because then when you use the white inks over top of it, they look amazing. It looks amazing to put white over top of that. So don't be afraid of going dark with these colors. And that is the Prussian blue. And there's a bunch of water right here. So maybe I should just tip it a little bit and get the paint to move around a little. Fun. Okay. And then I think I want to put some purple up in here. Do I have purple? Yes. This is deep violet. And so let's put a little bit. I'm thinking I might want to leave a little bit of that white. So let's just put some of this deep violet right here. Interesting. Interesting what it's doing when it mixes with the pink. Okay. Yay. Fun. Now there's a little bit of paint going off the side there. You can encourage that just by using any sort of pointy instrument. I like to just use a toothpick. So I'm just going to create like some interesting little hairs off of here. Why not, right? This is experimentation. Let's do some down here. Just making little hairs. I don't know why. It's okay. It's okay to just play, experiment, go outside the lines, do something different. You see that right there? So I'm going to go ahead over, since I did that on this side, I'm going to come over here. Then I'm going to do some here because it's still quite wet right here. So I can pull some out. And then the theme of these two sort of speak to each other, right? Because they have some of the same. Oh, let's do some big ones here because there's a lot of water here still. That is fun. Okay, there you go. There are the two of them. Interesting. So then I would leave those to dry. Now what I'm noticing is this one's a lot bigger than this one over here. So I might actually take my brush here and encourage this to go out and up a little bit more so that the shapes are closer to one another. Bring this one out just a little bit more. And over just a little bit more, and then I'll add some more little hairs. Yee! Nice. Ooh, there we go. Rounding out that egg a little bit more. Cool. Ah, there's a lot of color on there. So before I put it in the water, I want to get a bunch of that dark color out. Otherwise, my water is going to turn too dark too fast, right? Let's go ahead and put some more of these little hairs in here just for fun. Interesting. Interesting. Something different, right? I love pulling out my these toothpicks and seeing what I can do with them. They're so simple, so lowly, right? But they really are a lot of fun to play with. Okay, that's interesting. Very interesting. So I will just leave that. Notice that there is some bowing, but not nearly as much bowing as we had on the paper that was loose, that wasn't glued on all the sides. So this one is glued on all the sides with the little opening right here. But there is a little bit, I don't know if you can see it, there's a little bit of bowing, but not nearly as much as there was with the other. Now I'm noticing a little rogue bit of color here. And this is a beautiful 100% cotton paper. So it'll be super easy to lift that little bit off of there. And this is my favorite brush for that. It's the Princeton Velvet Touch Willows Blender. This is the 3/8 inch. I find that's the right size for me. They have a smaller one, 1/4 inch also. So I don't want it to be too wet, just wet enough. And I'm going to come in here and I can scrub. That's the nice thing about a professional watercolor paper is you can scrub it and then it won't tear the paper up because it's made to have color lifted off of it. Okay, there we go. It's a little bit yellow, so I'm going to try to wipe it off with a clean spot here. See if I can get that yellow off of there. Some colors stain, like this yellow looks like it's staining a little bit in the corner there, but not too bad. Better than having a big old blop there, right? Okay, so that's going to have to set aside as well. And now we're going to do some doodling. Woo! Oh, no, we need to do some fish first. So let me see maybe we'll do a fish on here. No, see, that's the problem with having a block. Remember I was saying you have to like finish the artwork that you have there. Although I can take this off. So let's do that and we'll put two fish on here so you can see how I did that. Let's move this one aside. That's always the trick, is finding flat areas all over my studio to put these things. Oh, by the way, like this one, I'm looking at it and going, wow, there's a lot of creep of that purple and blue. I can lift some of that color while it's still wet and it is still wet, so I can just use a paper towel here. Eee! And I was able to lift a bunch of color off of there so that that gives it an interesting variation there, right? Yes. Okay, here we go. Putting that away. And then let's go ahead and take this off of here because we can do the doodles off of the block. So this one is only glued on the two sides here. This is the fluid watercolor paper. And so I'm going to use the other thing that I like to use is a palette knife. So you could take your palette knife and put it in between the sheets and then just be very careful. What I do is I'm running it around here is I'm angling the front end of the palette knife down. So because otherwise it can cut the paper. If you don't angle it down, it can cut the paper. And I've done that many times. Trust me. Okay. And then if I was using this little one, which came with the bow hung, the nice thing about this is, yes, it has a kind of a dull cutting edge, and then it's angled up from there, from the edge. And so that helps to separate it without cutting it. Bloop. Okay, there we go. So now that is off of there. Isn't that awesome? Awesome. That helped to keep it flat. Now it's nice and flat. So let's do fishies. Fishies. So what do I want to do? I guess I'll use the same, I'll use these inks, which are the acrylic inks. Let's put a fishy here. So we're just going to do a fish shape. So fish shape is kind of narrow at the back end and a little bit wider at the front end there. So I've got a fishy there. Let me bring it up so you can sort of see the water, right? You can see the water there. And what are we going to do? At the front, I'll do some yellow. Let's do this yellow. Ooh, pretty. So I've got some yellow. Let's do some of this phthalo green, which is nice and bright. Nice. Ooh. We'll bring some more green up in here. Just for the heck of it. Okay. What color do I want to put on the bottom there? Let's use this. I was going to say, didn't I get out a red? So this is Naphthol red. So let's put some red along here and underneath here. All right. Now I like to take the tip of this and just sort of do my back fin like that. And then there's going to be a top fin like this. And there's going to be a bottom fin, a dorsal fin right here. There we go. It's very sloshy, but that's okay. And I'm noticing that the yellow was a little chunky coming out of there because it's been sitting for a while. So it has some chunks. Therefore, I'm going to take my brush, any size brush, and I want to get the little chunks out of there. There we go. So I'm just going to pull it a little bit into the green right there. Why not? That's a kind of interesting effect, right? So that is one of the fish. And then let's do the other fish looking that way. Because this is where I'm going to put the eye, if you see here, right? So maybe I'll make this one a little bit smaller. So maybe it's like a daddy talking to the child. Maybe. Let's see. Okay. Interesting. Let's put a bump on the top of the head here. That's cool. Okay, so there's some more water there. And what colors? What colors? Let's do the magenta and blue maybe on this one. Love the spread. I'm gonna do the fin at the top here. And then let's do some blue. I'm gonna use the phthalo blue. Run that along here. I'm gonna do the tail in blue, like that. Maybe I'll do the dorsal fin in blue as well. So normally they have a fin on the top, a fin on the bottom, a fin on the side, and a tail. Okay, that's how they keep themselves up and woo, running through the water like crazy, right? Okay, what other color? I think I'm going to throw some more of that pink in there. Okay. Now the pink has white in it, so it's a little bit opaque. Yee! Wow, that sucker just spread. It is spreading like wildfire. See what it's doing there? It just spread like crazy. Love the colors. Thank you, Lucky 13 Auctions. Thank you, thank you. Okay, well, that's interesting. We'll see where that goes when it dries because you just never know what they're going to look like when they're dry. Oh, but if I do want to lift up a little bit of the color, I just use the edge of a paper towel. So the ends, I'll use some of the ends and I'll stick them in there. If I want to lift some of the color out so it's not too wet and it dries a little faster. There we go. See there? Or I will just fold it like this and get myself a little tip like that, and then put that in there and let that lift some of the color out too. Because, I hate to wait. I like to get on with the painting. And so I like it to be not quite so wet. There we go. That helped a little bit. That's cool looking. Nice one. Okay. Let's set these aside, but that's how I would start out doing the fish. But you could do the same thing, like a couple of them next to each other as owls. I've seen that too. The owls are super cute, using the same technique to create the background and then drawing all over it. So let's set this one aside as well to dry. And go back. Let's see how this one's doing. See, these are still not dry. You see that? Where there's still little puddles, but I can just pick those up. Let's pick up that puddle right there. Yeep. Oh, okay, that's cool. And then let's pick up the birdie puddle right here. See all that beautiful color coming off. And then here. And then over here. Boop. Just to help it along. It's okay with these colors also to use a heat tool. There's certain paints that I'm like, don't use a heat tool, but these kind, it's okay to use a heat tool. There we go. So then that would help it to, and then I would just pull out a heat tool and do this to help move them along. But what we're going to do with these is we're going to put acrylics, and we're going to use the Signo pens on top of them. So it's okay if they're not 100% dry. It's better if they're dry, but not a requirement, right? Okay. So I'm just looking. I'm going to set this aside for a minute because it would be better if it's a little bit more dry. So let's pick up. There was a little bit more there. Color, color, color. Those are looking cute though, right? And that was the Colorex there. So the watercolor ink. All right. Here's this one that I had created. Um, if you weren't here earlier, I created some practice sheets on my website. So if you were to go to my website, I'm going to show you the practice sheets now. If you go to my website here, beatsart.com. Actually, let me bring it up closer because I can see it looks tiny over there. This is it right here, beatsart.com. If you go to my website, then I just added a blog post, so it'll come up on the first page. And I created some reverse coloring, um, the concept of reverse coloring. So this is a reverse coloring book. And what you get in these books, which are so cool, is you get imagery and then you can draw around the imagery. You can do your doodles. So using that concept, I created some reverse coloring sheets for you. And this is one of the examples of the reverse coloring sheets. So there's the first one, and then there's this one. So it doesn't quite look, like it does here. It's not easy to get these like super bright colors to translate to just a regular computer print. But I wanted you to have these so that you can practice. You can print these and practice your doodles on these before going to the actual, maybe an actual set of these that you've done, so that you can get comfortable with um, different doodles that you could do on them. So by going to my website, the front page of my website, which is my blog, will have these for you to download. And all you have to do is I have a PC, so I right click on the picture and then I can tell it to copy it to my computer, and then I can just print it. So you can play around with these if you want to get a feel for um, what kind of designs to put on there. Okay, so those 3 sheets are available for you right now. And I think with this, I'm going to bring my imagery down a little bit closer so you can see. Oh, hold on just a second. There we go. That's a little bit closer for you so you can see what I'm doing. So I like to use for this kind of doodle, I like to use the number 1 of the Micron pen. There are other fine liners out there as well. This just happens to be my favorite archival ink. It says right there, archival ink. So this is artist grade. And I like to do my blacks with this, or I like to do my blacks with either the Posca or the Pebeo acrylic. So these are acrylic paints and these are permanent. It's kind of like an India ink, right? And so I can do my doodles with that. And then, of course, I have tons of uh, these are just acrylic markers. The nice thing about these is there's a spare nib right here. These are the Pebeo ones. There's a spare nib in the lid. And so if you mess up your nib right here, you can pull it out and you have another one here to put in, which is kind of cool, right? That's why I like the Pebeo ones. Plus, they gave them to me. So I will put that out there. They did give these to me. So, but whenever I need replacements like these, I'll usually get them off of Blick. Sometimes, not very often, but sometimes you can find these are fine art materials. You can find them by sellers. Look during the other craft supplies on Whatnot. And sometimes you can find people. I found a whole set of beautiful markers from somebody on Whatnot and snapped them right up because they were a good deal. Okay, so keep your eyes out for acrylic markers or other watercolor markers, pens. If you ever see these Signo pens like this, they're fantastic. So one of the things I like to do, but it's just me, is I like to go around the circles with some fun colors. So let's get, what would be a good compatible colors here? Yee, that's why you need to have, when you see those collections and it's like 72 colors, and you're like, why the heck would anybody need 72 colors? Well, this is why you need 72 colors, okay? Because I need to see like what do I want to put around here? So these are acrylic markers, and most of the acrylic markers you have to pump. So can you hear that? There's a little there's a little marble inside there. And then I always have like a little spare piece of paper next to me so that I can start the flow of the paint. See, oftentimes after leave the lid on while you shake, okay? Because There's a big blob of paint that just came out with the first pump. That's why I don't do my first pump on the artwork, right? I do my first pump on another piece of paper, and I make sure it's not too juicy, that it's just juicy enough. So I'm going to take this color and I'm just going to go, this is just me. This is what I like to do to get started, is I like to just put some very organic lines around the shape. That way, if the shape is kind of wonky or like these are off to the side, it doesn't matter. When you do your lines around it, you can fix that. So that um, makes it easier. Let me see. Let me see. I'm looking for a, a proper blue here. This is a green. Maybe I can use that green on that one. And then what am I going to do on this side? A blue? A blue? No, the blue should be over here and the green should be over there. Okay. Pump, pump, pump. Get it started. If you've pumped it for a session, like if I'm going to work for a couple of hours, once you've pumped it, you usually don't have to pump it again during your session. But the next time you're going to grab it, you're going to want to pump it again. Okay, so let's just do this for fun. And then the next one, we're going to do this one. You do not have to do the outlines. It's just what I like to do. There we go. It's sort of, to me, it breaks the surface of the paper. All right, this line right here is a little dry, little dry. So I'm going to go ahead and pump this up. And sometimes you have to pump it a couple of times to get the paint to come out and have it flow a little bit better. There we go. Now we've got more paint on there. It's not so dry. I want my lines to be a little thicker. There we go. Okay. Fun. So that is the first little set right there. And then sky's the limit for the inside. You can use any sort of uh, theme for what you want to put inside here. If you look at the other ones that I did, I sort of did plants. This isn't a lotus. I use the industrial paint markers for writing on rusty metal. Oh yeah. So Mark B just said he uses industrial paint markers. Industrial paint markers that work on metal are solvent based. So what happens is you can use them on paper, but eventually they will eat the paper because of the solvents. All right. Sometimes also when you use those markers on artist papers like these, it will actually, some of the solvent will bleed away from the color. Not always, but sometimes. It'll bleed away from there and leave like a kind of a halo around it. But if they're acrylic based, which sometimes they are, then absolutely they will work for this type of effect. Faux show. So you just need to look at like, what are the ingredients there? I use them at work. Sure. But you never know. Crossover, right? Crossover. Sometimes things can cross over to artists. Resin was traditionally used what on like boat decks and stuff, and then us artists took it and started putting it on our paintings. Mm. And using resin to cast things and just all kinds of good stuff, right? Okay, so I'm going to keep this close at hand because I want to be able to use it to pump with if I need to. I want to show you on this blue area over here. Let's do remember that this is watercolor right here. So if I use the Color X white, it's likely that the color is going to resuspend and come back up. But let's just get a brush and let's give this a try. Okay, I only have a million brushes here. Let me just grab this brush right here. And we'll try a little bit of the white. Ooh. So grab that. Come on, white. There we go. This, the white and the metallics you have to stir them. Actually, I did not stir this. That's why I'm getting chunky white and not smooth white. So let me take a stick here. Yes, I know I have a stick. So let's use a stick. And with the white, because the white is titanium white. So of course, oh yeah, I can feel it. Oh my gosh. Holy moly. The whole bottom here is like thick with the titanium dioxide. You see the chunks? That's the titanium dioxide falls to the bottom. And then you have to mix it in. Silly me that I didn't get out a stick and start, because I could tell when I was putting it on the brush, I'm like, hey, how come it's not thick? And that's why, because it needed to be mixed. Okay. And that's anytime you're working with a fluid that is a titanium dioxide uh, white. Okay, let's see. Which usually they just call it titanium white. It's a beautiful white, but it, yeah, it can get chunky. Okay, good. That's looking much better. Okay, here we go. And I have to do the same thing with the metallics too, because with the metallic flakes, the silver, the gold float to the bottom, right? And so you have to also mix them. All right, there we go. Yay. Let me clean this up. You can see all the colors on this stick, so I just keep using it over and over again. Why not? Okay. Now I can get the brush and let's get some color. Now the color's flowing the way it's supposed to. Okay, thank you. So let's put some white on here and see what happens. I think because I mixed it, we're looking good. Ooh, okay. Nothing like getting paint all over me. I can see it beginning to reactivate the paint underneath it. We shall see. Let's see here. I just wanted to show you what happens when you use like a regular water-based white. Okay, can you see that? Can you see that the color underneath is beginning to activate a little bit and come back up into the white? It's not too bad. There's like a little ring around the white. But what happens is as it starts to dry, remember this is watercolor ink, so it reactivates. And if it were acrylic ink and it were fully dry, it would not reactivate. Okay, so the white would sit on top. But this one, the color is beginning to go away because it's slightly blending with the color underneath. Yikes, right? And the same is true if I use an acrylic marker, because acrylic markers are water-based. But let's see. This one is also water-based, the Micron pens, but there's so little water in it that it usually isn't a problem. So let's just like draw some rocks here along the edge of this, like that. And so this goes over it just beautifully, just gorgeous, and it doesn't hurt it any. There, it won't lift. You see that? That almost looks like a cactus to me, but we will just pretend that it's some rocks, okay? And then I can take this and go ahead and maybe put like a little vine here. The thing is, when you start getting into the darker colors, it can be hard to see the black against the darker colors. So that just means I'll have to go in and put a lighter color in the middle, right? So that it'll show up. I'll show you this in just a second. This is definitely a design that I go to a lot, which is just the simple leaves. So do you see the leaves now forming? Let's just do that there. So we've got something starting there. Now, if I wanted to, I could fill in some of those rocks. I could also fill in some of the leaves. Let's take like this light green and see whether it'll work to fill the leaves or not. This is the acrylic pump marker. Woohoo! I'm pumping it over here to get the paint flowing. All right, let's just put a little bit on the leaves. Oh, nice. It looks like this might sit on top. It might be opaque enough to sit on top and not reactivate what's underneath it. That's cool. Okay, there you go. You're starting to be able to see the leaves kind of pop out. It is just a little bit blending. Now, what I do oftentimes is I'll just put my first coat. If I'm working on top of watercolor, I'll just put the first coat of the acrylic, and then I'll come back and I'll do a second coat, because what's happening is it is combining with the ink in the background. So there you go. The ink in the background started to sort of come up through as it dried. So often I'll put 2 or 3 layers of my acrylic if I'm working on a dark color. If I'm working on a light background with the black, I don't need to do that necessarily. All right, let's do this. And let's go look in the book that I showed you earlier, which was this one, Paint Mojo. Tracy Verdugo was the inspiration for this workshop, right? So she has some pages in here in her book, Paint Mojo, with symbols. These are some of the symbols that she likes to use. And I've shown you other authors in the past that show you other symbols that they like to use. So let's take one of the things that she likes to do is little stars. Let me see if I have a really opaque. What do I have that's super opaque? Oh, all these water-based markers, they just, let's try the gel pen. Maybe the gel pen will, this is the jelly roll. And let me see if I can get the jelly roll is a, also by Sakura, the same people that make this graphic, Sakura, the graphic Pigma marker. Let's see if my jelly roll is working. Well, ink is coming out, but barely any. It's not really white right now. Ooh, dots are working. All right, let's try the, I could use the Posca white, but the same thing is going to happen to the Posca white that happened to the Colorex white. Do you see how the Colorex white dots are have turned sort of into the color in the background? So here is the Posca white. Oops, there's another color on the tip of it. Let me clean it. Another reason to go to a test sheet first, right? So let's just do a little star up here. And at first you go, oh, that looks awesome. Love it. It's very white. But then, because it is wet, it begins to disappear. That background color starts to come up. Ah! But I just let it dry and then I put another layer and then I let it dry and then I put another layer. So if you're working on top of a watercolor background, you may have to do that. So that was one of the symbols that she had in the book here. I like her little triangles. Let me go, lots of dots. And oh, these are cute. She has these little lines with a heart on the top. Let's try one of those. So now what we're going to use, let's use something colorful here with the Signo markers. What color do I want to use? Well, I'll go with the red, right? Let's go with the red. So I'm going to come up here with the red, and I'm going to put a little heart on top. It's like a little staff. And then I'll do another one over here, and I'll put a little heart on top. Those are cute, right? So it's just about taking your time, relaxing, coming up with some fun concepts. Let me just put another one up here and do another little heart. These Signo Uniball multicolors are, they're like a metallic kind of finish. They're a little shimmery, just a little. So there are the 3 little sticks with the hearts on the end that she used. And then what other color do I want? Well, I don't know if this one, this Signo Uniball, let's see what happens when I put it on here. I'm going to see if I can put it around these little dots. Okay, it's kind of working. They are, that's soaking in a little bit. What I find is when you use the Signo on top of watercolor, you need to use a light touch. Don't push too hard because otherwise you're going to, that little roller ball is going to get filled up with the watercolor paint that's on your surface. It'll reactivate the watercolor and then the watercolor will get inside there, the little ball, which is why periodically I do this and I just clear it. But the same thing's happening. They're turning blue. They are turning blue because it's reactivating. I don't know if you can see that. It is reactivating that watercolor paint underneath there. It's okay. It's all right. I just usually will go over it multiple times. Now, let's try the acrylic white. So this is the acrylic ink, titanium white again. Let's shake her up. Let's see what happens. Because before we were using the Colorex white. And let's try the acrylic white. Let me use a dip pen for this. Where did I put my dip pen? Dip pen, dip pen. I only have 50 million pens around me, so let's see where I put it. There's one that'll work. So what I'm gonna do with this is acrylic ink. It's all chunky too. Are you gonna work? Let's put this in there. Let's dip the dip pen in there and let's see what happens. Okay, well, half the time this is what I'm doing in my studio is just experimenting, but it's okay. This is how we learn. So this is a dip pen with the acrylic ink. Let's see. Yeah, it's coming off, but not very well. It's a little chunky. It probably needs a good stir as well. And it's doing the same thing because it's water-based. It is just soaking right into the blue. Ah, see, the white is not sitting on top. So I can just clean this. I try to clean it right away because I don't want that white ink to stick into my nibs, right? Okay, so that one did not work very well either. Let's use the Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof White, which is my favorite white for working on top of watercolor. Okay, it's made for that. It is made for that. So let's open this up. And usually what I'll do is stir it first. So let's just get a brush. I usually just use the back end of a brush. And it's very goopy. So I'm getting it off the sides here. And oh, it's definitely strong. See how it's syrupy? It's like honey, isn't it? It's like honey. So it has the consistency of honey. And let me just get the rest of it back in the bottle there. All right. This stuff is awesome, y'all. awesome for keeping the white on top of your watercolors. Let's get a decent brush here. So here's a good, this is a Master's Touch brush. So it's from Hobby Lobby, but it's a nice detail brush. It holds a good point. It's one of their rounds. And let's dip into bleed proof white. Oh my goodness, there's a little hair in there. Yee, get out of there. All right. Now when we use bleed proof white, it is going to sit on top, y'all. It is not going to soak in. It is amazing. You're going to see the difference here. It's like night and day. There you go. You see the white sitting on top there? Whoop. That's the bleed proof white now sitting right on top. It's amazing. Amazing. Yeah, I love the bleed proof white. I can even take the bleed proof white here and put it inside the leaves. And then once it's dry, come over top of the leaves with my green. And then the green will be super bright because it'll be going over top of white instead of going over top of that uh, dark background that keeps wanting to reactivate, right? So let's do this. You can, if you go over your black lines, you can always go back and add the black lines. What is it made of? Dang good question. Mark V was asking, what is bleed proof white made of? Does it say? It says may be harmful if swallowed, so do not swallow it. It has zinc sulfate in it. That's what it says. Keep it out of the reach of children. Zinc sulfate. All right. Bleed proof white, amazing. There is a link to it in my on my website in the links area because it's just amazing. It's amazing, amazing. There we go. Yeah, so I use little teeny tiny detail brushes usually with that. Although I could get a brush damp or wet and put some of it on there and then like, you know, hit it like that and give it like a snow effect. So let me just get a little bit of water on there and then get a little bit of it on here. And then let's hit it against something like this so that you can get a spatter. Can you see the spatter right there? So it works well for a spatter too. You just have to make sure your brush is wet so that it'll flow off of the brush. And you don't want it to be too wet. You don't want the paint itself, the bleed proof white, to be too wet because otherwise it will just soak up the watercolor that's underneath it. Okay. All right. So that's working on top of watercolor, some of the considerations for that. Now let's go work on top of the acrylics. All right, let's set that aside there. And I'm going to put hers away, her book. Thank you, Tracy. Tracy Verdugo. She's awesome. All right, let's see what we have here. Because these are acrylic, right? Ooh. Okay, this one's mostly dry. This one's not quite dry. Yeet. So let's get some of this part that's not dry off of here. Eat. Nice. I like that. I like what it did. So there they are. And this is the, it's still wet. Come on now. Woohoo. That's all right. I think we'll work on the blue side because this side is still, since it has the copper in it, the metals are a little bit more dense. And so they take a little longer to dry. Let's see how our fishies are doing. Not almost dry, not quite. Let's see. Let me use a paper towel here and get the part that's not dry off of there. But because these are acrylics, they're permanent. And then you can just use all of your acrylic markers and things over top of them. And you don't have to worry, no worry about the color coming back up. Let's dry this one off. So I like doing the darker because I like using a white marker to go on top of that. So let's get this one going. And then we'll set that aside. We'll come back to that. So let's work on this dark one right here because I love using the light colors on the dark one. Now, because this is acrylic paint, I would not use the watercolor ink on top of it. You can, but I wouldn't do that. I would use either the Liquitex ink, which is acrylics, or of course my acrylic markers. So let's try the Posca right here. And this is a white Posca. Which number is this? 3M. So it's 3 millimeter. It's a fine tip. They have fine and then they have ultra fine. So the ultra fine's even smaller than this one. And then my favorite is the medium, which is the 5M. Do you see the number on there? 5M. Oh, it says this is zero 0.9 to 1.3 millimeters. Okay, so they tell you the size right on there. All right. Let's make sure this is, yep, the paint is flowing. So I like having a dark background like this. I'm going to bring it up closer for you. Dark, nice dark background, right? So I like having a dark background like this because then I can work on top of it with these light colors and it's like, pow, really cool, really cool. So let's just do like sort of a flowery type thing here. Nice. And then I like to put little dots. It wouldn't show up as well if you were on a light background. So I really like having the dark background to put my lighter colors on top of. So you see how the white is now sitting on top. And don't worry, it is not going to reactivate what's underneath there, unless of course this was not dry. But right now it is dry, so you can actually write on top of it with a white like this. Now I want to show you the Signo because I love the Signo. And the Signo gives like a thinner line, which is perfect for doing details. I love doing circles. I also like doing like little broken lines. I'll show you those in just a second. So you see there, see how beautifully that shows up on the acrylic ink? Oh my gosh, it does. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Um, so with these, which are the watercolor inks, I like to tend to work a little bit lighter. That way I can go in with my darker colors and you don't get so much color blending. But with the acrylics, I like to do the darker colors, the more because then I can use my lighter color pens on top of it and it really pops that way. Another thing that I like to do, I love swirls. So often I will do little swirls like this. And I like it to be super organic. So you see, I'm not holding the pen like a pencil. I'm holding it straight up and down like I would an Asian brush. Like here are my Asian brushes. So Asian brushes, you hold like this, up and down. You get that sort of looseness to it. And so I like to hold my pen like that too. And then I get these like crazy organic shapes like that. Plus the surface is a little bit rough. And then I put little broken lines here. And go something like that. Great, fun design. Now that's white. Let's use some of these colors because I love the colors. Mm, mm. So many choices, so many, so many. Here's the blue because there's a little bit of blue in there. So let's add like some blue, more circles because I'm a circle girl. So there are some blue circles around it. If there are any shapes you want me to do, let me know and I will try putting those on there. Now, also against the dark colors, the gold and the silver look terrific. So again, these are the Signo Uniball broad tips. And so let's use a little bit of gold. I'm just going to do something like this so that you can see. Can you see how it shines against that dark? Oh, awesome. Oh, there's also a copper, which is just gorgeous. Um, let's put some silver on here so you can see what the silver looks like. What do I want to do for the silver? So I will do, shapes, silver shape. I'm just going to do this line here. I like to do these little sort of like stitches, kind of stitches, but kind of not. Just their lines with like little dots on the end. I just like them. I like them because you can vary the direction of the lines and you can vary the length of the lines. Kind of fun, right? So that is the silver against the dark. See how that shows up? Oh my gosh, it shows up so beautifully. I love it. Okay, so this should be dry enough now on the other side. Let's work with some other colors on there. This Signo black is beautiful, as well as the graphic. What you have to be careful of with the Signo black is it is a gel marker. And so when you first put it down, if you rub your finger over it, you can smear it or smudge it, which you may like. You might like that effect. The Micron pens, for the most part, don't smear. If you add water to it, it will right away, it can smear, but for the most part, they don't smear. So just bear that in mind. Let's see, what kind of shape do I want to do here? Oh, I like to do sort of an oystery shape. So let's start like this and then like this. Now, the interesting thing is, and I've seen this before, if you have metallics down on your surface, when you put the gel, for some reason, the metal will sort of soak up into it, into the top. It's bizarre, but anywho, it's all right. So this is my oyster shape, I like to call it. So there, you see how the metal is like coming through a little bit? You can always go over it a second time if you need to. Now that was the gel. Let's see if we use the number one of the Micron pen. So let's do some more of these over here and see if we get that same effect or not. Oh, yeah, I'm hearing thunder outside. I can see out the window in the other room there. And it is, the sky is black, y'all. I lost my internet yesterday, so that put me behind a couple hours before I got it back up. It was horrible. I was working on my newsletter, so my newsletter didn't get out till this morning. I was working on my website, so I was scrambling today because I lost my internet for a while yesterday. Okay, it looks like the metallic is not coming up through this Micron pen. The black is sitting on top, which is kind of cool. Kind of cool. So just something to know. Um, oh, the colors are just so beautiful in that. Loving it. Loving it. The nice thing too is if you're using a sort of a standard size, you can cut it in half and then this can be one piece and that can be a separate piece. They don't have to talk to each other, as it were. Oh, let's see. Anything else? that y'all might want me to put on top of here. You tell me, and I will be happy to do it. Now, I can use the bleed proof white on top of here, and it'll just sit right up on top. But I don't need it if I've got all of these other options, right? Now, this uni ball or the uni, oh, look at that. So these uni balls and this are both made by Uni. That's interesting. Same company makes these. Um, okay, so if I want to do spatter, what I like to do on when I'm working on the acrylic inks is I like to get one of the heavier white. So you see the bullet tip. This is the large bullet tip. It is a 4 millimeter. It tells me right there. So if you take the 4 millimeter bullet tip and you juice it, meaning you, let's put the lid on so I don't end up spraying it all over me, which ask me how I know, because I have done it to myself before. Oy. Okay, let's get it good and mixed up. And then we're going to pump it a bunch of times on here. What you want to do is you want to get a whole bunch of paint right there in the, yes, in the tip. And then you just do this. Awesome. I love doing the spray like that. Fantastic. So that's, if you juice up the tip of your pump marker, then you can do that. You can get your spatter. I'll bring it up closer so you can see the spatter. You see the spatter? I love spatter. Spatter is awesome. Okay. That is, let me make sure that's all I have for you tonight. Looks like it. Just looking around, looking around. Oh, let's do a fishy. Let's do a fishy since it looks like they're dry now. That's why it's good to do a look around, right? Look and see. Okay, so to get the eye for the fish, I can either use an acrylic marker, like Posca has a nice white and black set. So you could use the Posca black. Um, you can use the Pebeo acrylic marker black. Maybe I'll use the acrylic marker black. Now this one I've been using a lot. So yeah, the paint is right there, ready to go. So I'm gonna do an eye right here. So I'm just putting black, just black. So that one was the acrylic. And then this is using the micron over here. I'll do a micron right here. So either one will work. The micron dries way faster, way faster. So that's why most of the time I use the micron because I like how fast it dries, super fast. And then to get this like cute little ring around the eye, you see there to really make the eye pop out, then you can use something like this Posca white. Let's make sure the white is flowing. Yes. As long as this is dry, make sure that your background paint is dry. Then I can just go right around here with the white. It helps if you have a like a darker color right here in the background. This color is a little bit light. It's not quite dry because a little bit of the green was coming up, but that's okay. Doesn't matter. Once it dries, I can go over it again. There we go. Okay. And then this one's not quite dry either, but let's see what happens. This is also a pump marker and it has a little, I can hear the little inside here. There's the little marble in there. So see what I mean? If you're working on a darker background, the white is like much more, the white is more obvious there. Okay. And then you're going to want to put a little tiny white mark on there in order to make it, to give the eye some personality, right? So I can either use this Signo. Let's see, this one's still wet. So I'll come in here with the Signo. Come on, Signo, you can do it. Get the ink to flow. There we go. Nice. So there we have a nice white little highlight, right? And this part around here has sort of blended in with the background. The nice thing is, because this is acrylic, you can just, once it's dry, you just go over it again, go over it again, go over it as many times as you need to. Now, I like to put a little heart there for the mouth. Do you see the little heart for the mouth? So let's use one of the, what color mouth do I want? I think I want a red. Red? Hmm. Maybe I'll use this muted red ochre again. Nope, too transparent. Okay, red. Let's find a red one. There we go. There's red. So let's do this one. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to turn it and make a little heart shape. And so there's a little heart-shaped mouth, right? Isn't that cute? So cute. Okay, so that fish has a little heart-shaped mouth. And I like to put a little bit of white. Can you see the little bit of white right there on that one? So I like to highlight the lips a little bit. Let me see, I think I have, do I have the fluorescent pink? If I have the fluorescent pink marker, then I'll use that. I'm not seeing my fluorescent pink. Dang it. Okay. It's all right. I'll get over it. I must have put it somewhere. Is it there? No, that's red. I'm looking for, well, that's a nice pink. It's not the fluorescent pink. There is a fluorescent pink, but I don't, I must have it somewhere else. So let's just take this pink right here. This is a little bit different. This is a chisel tip right here. So, but it'll still work the same way. You still have to shake it and then pump it. It just has a little different shape to it. Come on, paint. I want it to flow down there, starting. There we go. Now the paint's coming out. So let's create a little lip here and a little end right here. There. So now that one has a little lip too. Oh, they're so cute talking to each other. And of course, you know, I'm going to put little bubbles coming up from there, right? So let me create some little bubbles here. I have this nice sort of aqua color. Yeah, let's just do little bubbles. Right? Isn't that fun? That's why I said this could be a lot of fun for kids. Even if you do the initial inky ink and then let the kids do the details, the fill in with pens or markers. Um, okay, something else I like to do on the eye. Sometimes I like to put a radius on the eye. So let's grab a color. What color? I'm looking for a purple. Purple. Come on, purple. Oh, this is a nice purple. Let's see. There we go. So something like this. You know how our eyes, right, have a little marks in the iris. So there we go. Actually, I've seen some fish that have like that radiating look to them. And the background color has gotten a little bit dark from the the ink not being completely dry. So I would go over that with some more white. Oops, wrong white. This one. Okay, there we go. So that should sit on top and make it just a little bit brighter. Like that. Now, besides that, I like to put, I like to accentuate the fins. Plus, we need some sort of fin right here, right? So let me find what's another good color. Ooh, did I just see? Yes. Now this is the fluorescent pink, but unfortunately, fluorescent pink is transparent. I don't know if you can see that, but you see how the black is showing through there? It's transparent. So it doesn't work well for the fin here, but I can use it here. There, give that bright pop of pink right there. And down here maybe. There we go. So there's just a highlight for the fin. Why not? And then I want an opaque color for the fin here in the middle. So I'm going to use this purple again. Ah, a lot of the color is coming out. It came out really fast that time. So I'm just going to do this and put a little fin right here. It's not as opaque as I would like. So when it dries, I'll use this purple, this metallic purple, and it'll sit on top of there and it'll give it a little bit of extra zhuzh, right? Let's use some of the white on the tail. Where did I put the white? Let's use, now, one of the other things I like about the Pebeo markers is that they have a 0.7, like a detail tip that looks like that. You see that tip? And so they have it in white. And I really like this for some of these details. So let me, let's pump it. Yeah, get some paint flow in there so I can put some dots. Let's put some dots here. This is a nice opaque acrylic paint. So I do like the this detail pen for that. So do you see the dots, how they're sitting on top of there? And maybe I want to just do this and do some lines on the tail to give the tail a little bit of extra definition. Right, just for something fun. So this one, I love this one. This is the Pebeo, but it's the 0.7 tip. Really good for doing some details like this. Let's see if this is dry now and I can put the white in the eye. Yes, there's the white in the eye. Fabulous. So I'm going to use this around. I'm just using a very light touch because I want the paint to come off the end and I don't want it to eat into the paper. There we go. Wonderful. So that's sort of how I play around with the fish. You can see here a lot more. It's a lot more developed. I've finished a lot more of the details, put some marks in there for the scales and all that, right? Gave the eye a little more uh, personality by putting some dots in there. Did the little heart for the mouth, dots, that kind of stuff, right? Very fun, 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 fun. Okay, so I've had a blast. I hope you've enjoyed it too. And it is time for us to do uh, well, it's time for the end of the workshop. So that is it. I didn't see any additional questions for me to answer. And yeah, I'm looking over on YouTube as well. Nope, no extra questions over there. Forgot highlight on the lips. Oh, okay. So let's take the white, this one, since it's already juiced up. And let's add the little highlight right there. And the little highlight right there. Oh my gosh. There they are, the little highlights on the lips. They're so cute. Yeah, but I definitely, some of my go-tos here are this, these are both the black and the white. I think you can get the set of just the black and the white from Pebeo in this 0.7 tip. These are fantastic. Plus, of course, hey, Salmon's girl, welcome in. Plus, of course, you have the spare tip here that just comes right out. Let's see. I'll have to put a pin in it. Where is my, see, I can go here and push it. You can come out. There we go. So that's what it looks like. That's the spare nib right there. And of course, you just use a little pair of pinchers, pull that one out, put this one in if it gets damaged, which it happens sometimes, not very often, but it does happen. And that just stays right there. So I know where it is. But you can see I've already replaced this one because it's no longer in the lid, right? But if I finish with the marker and it still has the spare, then I keep the spares. I keep them in a little container. And that way, if I need a spare, I have the extras. If I finished a marker and I haven't used the tip, right? Then that's a great way to save those. Okay, so those are the ones that I recommend for that. I do like this Posca. It's just, it's different. It's different. The way the tip works and all, it's different. So you just sort of have to try them. I like using this for the more diffused out around the eye. Um, it's not as bold as the paint coming out of the Pebeo ones. It's still great. It's just not quite as bold as this is right here. It doesn't come out quite as thickly as the one from Pebeo. Anywho, okay, that's the workshop. And you know what, Salmon's girl, you got here just in time to enter the giveaway because the workshop is over and that was a lot of fun that we had together. I can't wait to go and work on these, right? This one, like I said, looked like a little bird to me. So I'll probably turn this into a beak and put an eye right here. And we've got the feathers out the back. I might put some little funny legs on it, right? Funky little legs. Ah, something like that. It's just fun to let your imagination run wild with that.